Although it may not seem like it, World War II was not that long ago in the timeline of human history. For example, this school has a bomb shelter in its basement.
This space is a bomb shelter, and it's here in Omaha, Nebraska. This room was meant to keep people safe in the threat of a bomb attack until later in World War II when it was supposed to keep people safe of a nuclear attack. Here, today, we will be explaining to you why nuclear weaponry was even a threat in the United States.
In World War II, there was a massive undertaking in the United States to create an atomic bomb before the Axis powers in Europe could. This project was called the Manhattan Project and involved a large amount of scientists and supplies from across the country and led to the bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in the end of World War II. An important part of the Manhattan Project took place in July of 1945 and was the culmination of all the research and testing performed in the project. This was called the Trinity test, and it was when the first atomic bomb was detonated to prove that nuclear fission was possible. It was the beginning of an age of nuclear warfare and was an event whose existence led to a series of events that would change the world.
The beginnings of the creation of an atomic bomb occurred in the 1930s with the contributions of several scientists. In 1933, Leo Szilard created a theory that nuclear fission reactions could be self-sustaining, and then later in the 1930s, Louis Meitner and Otto Hahn managed the fission of uranium and coined the term nuclear fission. This work began to move to the United States when Szilard, who was a Jew, moved there to escape Nazi persecution. After the bombing of Pearl Harbor, the Army Corps of Engineers became more involved in this project to create atomic weapons. The agencies leading up to the Manhattan Project were first created in 1939 by Franklin D. Roosevelt because U.S. intelligence reported that Nazi scientists were working on a nuclear weapon. This committee focused on uranium and its potential role as a weapon, and it began funding research by Enrico Fermi and Leo Szilard, first at Columbia University, then later at the University of Chicago. The Army Corps of Engineers joined in 1942 after the U.S. joined World War II, and the project officially became a military initiative. They formed the Manhattan Engineer District, and it was based in Manhattan. U.S. Colonel Leslie R. Groves was appointed to lead the project. This project was called the Manhattan Project. It became an enormous undertaking across the country that was extremely expensive and kept very secret. Oak Ridge in Tennessee was used for uranium enrichment. Los Alamos in New Mexico was used for weapons research and eventually for creating the atomic bombs. And Hanford in Washington was used for making plutonium from the element of uranium. On December 28, 1942, President Roosevelt authorized the combination of all of these various research efforts to aim for the weaponization of nuclear energy. Oppenheimer, in charge of the task of creating the atomic bombs, chose to create a plutonium bomb that used imploding reactive plutonium instead of a bullet to detonate. He chose to have a test because this was such an unusual method and he wanted to be sure it would work.
J. Robert Oppenheimer was a famous scientist involved in the Trinity test. Although there were many other scientists working in the United States to create an atomic bomb, he is particularly well known because of his connection to the Trinity test. He was a theoretical physicist who is known as the father of the atomic bomb. He led Site Y, which was the weapons research and development facility in Los Alamos, New Mexico, during the Manhattan Project, and was in charge of their endeavor to design and build the first atomic bombs. The Trinity test occurred largely because he pushed to have a test before using an atomic bomb in war, and he was even the one who named it. Without him, the Trinity test may never have taken place. The Trinity test itself took place in July of 1945 in the Alamogordo Bombing and Gunnery Range in New Mexico. A large tower was constructed for the bomb, called Gadget, to hang from when it was detonated. This device, Gadget, was shaped like a large steel globe and was a plutonium implosion device like the Fat Man bomb dropped on Nagasaki later that year. It consisted of many cables, wires, switches, and detonators to power its explosion, and it was originally going to be inside a massive steel container called Jumbo to preserve its precious materials in case the test failed, though Jumbo wasn't used in the end. Gadget, as a plutonium implosion device, used explosives surrounding the plutonium inside of it. These explosives compressed and consolidated the plutonium when detonated, which made the plutonium denser and placed it under increasing levels of pressure. This started the device's chain reaction. The test took place at 5:29 in the morning after being postponed for an hour and a half by a thunderstorm. The Gadget detonated with a little more force than the Little Boy bomb used at the end of World War II. Scientists watching said that it lit the area with a light brighter than an afternoon sun. The extreme heat from the explosion completely destroyed the Gadget's tower, made a 5-foot deep crater beneath the tower, and melted sand around the detonation site, turning it into green glass now known as Trinitite.
The Trinity test allowed for more nuclear physicists to design nuclear weaponry for many years to come. The knowledge they gained during the Trinity test is still being used today with the development of other nuclear energy resources that are helping to evaluate and reinstate clean energy in the United States and throughout the entire world.
The Trinity Project was also influential in the completion of the Manhattan Project. Without the completion of the Manhattan Project, it is unclear how many more people would have died in World War II or how much longer World War II would have lasted. It was through the Trinity test that the United States was brought into the nuclear age, or the atomic age as is commonly known. In an article written by the National World War II Museum, they said, "The atomic bomb was arguably the most significant new technology developed during the war, as well as the most complex. Building the bomb required more than $2 billion, 125,000 workers, in a whole series of laboratories and factories spread out across the United States." The Trinity test was the most revolutionary advancements in the atomic age and in the 20th century regarding nuclear physics. The world might be a very different place without the Trinity test. Without it, we wouldn't be as far advanced in nuclear physics, war-bearing, and atomic energy as we are today. It was through the tremendous work of the scientists and engineers involved that the Trinity test was a successful breakage of the frontier of nuclear and atomic energy in the United States. Thank you for watching. We will now be concluding our video with our works cited format.